What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm doing a review on the Iceco VL35 Pro. What's it called? VL35 ProS. Today I'm doing a review on the Iceco VL35 ProS. I'm excited to show you guys this. I've been using it for a few weeks and I really like it. So the first thing we're gonna do though is we're gonna do a deep dive into all the features and just show you around the fridge so you can get an idea of what it looks like, what the capacity looks like on the inside, how to work the screen and all of its features and that kind of thing. So let's do that first. So let's start with some dimensions. You're 15.7 inches high by 15.9 in width right here, and then 28.1 from here to here. It's a pretty small fridge compared to like some of the bigger ones you get, but I think there's kind of a misconception. People think that these small fridges you can't fit very much, and so they opt for these much larger sizes. And there totally is a time and a place for all the sizes. That's why all these companies make these different sized fridges. But I think more people don't realize how much you can actually use something in the 35 or 45 range. You don't always need something in the 55, 60, 75 range all the time. It's better to save the space if you can. So I really like this size. So there's your dimensions. So starting here on the back of the fridge, here is one of two points that you have for your DC power. So you have one on the front as well, one on the back. That's really nice because everyone puts these in their vehicles different. So depending on how you have this thing mounted or put in your vehicle, you can kind of put the power, your DC power, from either side. So when it comes to the actual controls on this, it's like dang near dummy proof. This is about as simple as controls as I've seen on any of these fridges recently, which is a good thing. This is so easy and so easy to run. So let's go over it really quick just so you can see. So right here on the right corner, you have up and down arrows that just control your temperature. This one has a range of 0 degrees to 50 degrees. So you can freeze stuff in here. You can treat it as a freezer or treat it more of a fridge. I have mine set at 39, which is pretty good for most fridge stuff. And then you have a little gear icon here that changes it from max to eco. So max is going to consume more power, but it's actually going to get it to temperature faster. So if you're about to leave for the night or on a trip and you haven't even turned this thing on, it's probably worth turning it on max real quick, cools it down faster, and then eco is pretty self-explanatory. It's going to use less power. You have a center power button right here. You have to hold it down for a second. That way it doesn't accidentally get bumped. So that turns it off. And then same thing to turn it back on. And then this is your battery monitor button. So another gear icon here. And you have 3 different levels. So 1, 2, and 3. And that's more for if you had it onto like a starter battery or something like that. That's going to monitor that battery a little bit better so that you hopefully don't kill off that battery. And so that's more helping the sensitivity of how much you actually have within that battery storage. So it doesn't affect me much using a power station. Since the power station is already pretty smart on its own, I'm not worried about draining it or anything like that. So this is your second port for your DC power. I already showed you the one on the back so that you can kind of run it whichever way you want. Here's for your AC power. And so they gave you cords for both if you want to plug it into AC or DC. And then there's some USB plugs right here if you wanted to plug in like a phone or something or charge a device off of that. You got 2 USB-A ports right there. And then these are all watertight rubber seals. So you can just push those back in and then they kind of help keep the water out or dust or whatever it might be. So the other thing you can kind of see up here on the front, and then it's also on the back, is I have these screws right here, and that's for where the handles were. So with where I have mine up in my camper, I wanted this to be as short as possible, tucked up there as nice as it could be, and it's always strapped down up there. And so I wasn't worried about having the handles on to move it around. I did bring the handles just to show you though. So kind of a mixture of plastic and some metal right here. And they actually give you an extra one. So I have 3 now. In case one were to break, you have an extra. And then the other thing they give you extras of are these corner pieces. So these are they're kind of like bumper guards for the bottom here and for the top. And so they give you a bunch of extra ones of these in case these were to get hammered. And then the other side right here, nothing going on here, same as the other one. And as I'm moving that around, it reminds me the weight of this is just under 50 pounds, like 48 something. So pretty light and easy to move around. So pretty manageable compared to like some of the big ones. So this next feature is the entire reason that I wanted to switch to this fridge from my other one that I was using. I did have a Bouge RV 41 quart Rocky refrigerator was the name of it. And I actually stand by it still. It's actually a great fridge, but obviously this video is about the Iceco one. And the whole reason that I wanted to switch to this was because of this. So, I love how it can open from both sides, the lid can come off. It's just like the most multifunctional of all the fridges, I think, on the market right now. And so being able to access it from the side door and then from the inside when I'm inside the camper was like a huge selling point to me. And then if you're loading food or something into it, you can just pull the lid off like that. So I think Iceco is just crushing it with that design. Even the huge name brands in this space aren't doing stuff like that. So these companies that are making a killing right now on this kind of stuff, I think are just innovating faster than some of these big name brands that we're all used to. Let's check out the inside of it now. So the lid opens easy, and then they stay open like that. So you don't have to hold the lid open or anything. They do a really good job at just staying open like that. And then you have a basket that's removable. So the baskets are kind of nice if you're taking it inside your house or something and you want to load it full of stuff and then bring it out to the fridge, you can do that. So you have the whole basket area here, this space right here above the compressor. You do have a drain plug down there in the bottom if you had water or whatever it is spill in here and you needed to drain it. And then you have a light right here that turns on automatically when you open and close the lid, which is so nice. If there's any fridges that don't have that now, then they are way behind, because you use these things so much at nighttime, you don't want to have to get a flashlight or anything. So it lights it up super good at nighttime. So hopefully that gives you a good look into being able to see what the capacity actually looks like in real time. They call it the VL35 because it's a 35 liters of capacity and 37 quarts. They also give you this nice little chart that's a sticker right here on the lid that kind of gives you a recommended temperature setting for whatever you're putting in here. So I used that, and that was kind of useful to see what they recommend for these different types of foods and drinks. So that's about all for the specs. It's just a simple single zone fridge that just works, and that's what we want out of our gear. We don't need really complicated stuff and all this stuff. It just easy to control the temperature, easy to open it, easy to use, and just simple. So I like that about this one. I've really enjoyed this size, but let's talk about that for a minute. So I mentioned earlier that there's a reason all these companies make the different sizes. A lot of these like true overland type influencer guys on YouTube, which I'm not part of, I'm more of a camping type guy. Most of the time they might run something in like the 55 liter size or bigger if they have a family, which I find to be overkill if you're just like 1 to 2 nights at a time, or if you're more into like the camping aspect of it rather than like true overlanding weeks at a time. And so I chose to do the size of fridge for what I do most, which is that 1 to 2 nights at a time. I do a couple of big trips a year that are about a week long or so, which might be more useful to have a 55 liter, but I wanted to get the size that reflected what I do the most. And so this isn't just about me. I'm hoping that this makes sense to you as well, that I would get whatever size is gonna correspond to the activities that you do the most. So whether you camp or overland, or you're just doing it for hunting, that kind of thing, whatever it might be, depending on your use case, you might just need something this size. I kind of mentioned earlier that I think most people go overkill and size up when really the smaller you can go and still have enough space, it frees up so much more area back here in whatever you have it in, whatever rig you have it in for other types of gear. So that's not to say that you need for sure the 35 liter. I'm just kind of saying that kind of just evaluate whatever it is that you do the most. Don't just go off of whatever YouTuber recommended it to you. Their use case might be totally different than what you do. So I'd recommend kind of really looking into that. Another thing that you should do for sure is when you look at the dimensions of all these fridges online, go and actually measure out the dimensions of the space that you're putting it in. So whether it's a back seat or under a tonneau cover or into a camper like this, I would really measure out those areas so that you know what's gonna fit the best. Like for me, The only reason that I went with the 35 and not the 45, which is just a little bit taller, was because by the time the fridge is set up on the deck, I don't want it any taller because I want to be able to access it super good from the side. So the only other thing I'll say on the size of this is, even if you do week trips at a time, you can still get away with doing something like this, and here's why. So if you are someone who's traveling on dirt only, like you're packing in fuel, and you won't see a grocery store or a gas station for 4, 5, 6 days at a time, then this probably isn't going to be a big enough size because you're not going to be able to actually pack that much food with you. Even when I do longer trips, a week plus, it's pretty often that I'm doing an off-road trail for the day or 2 nights at most, and then I'm back into a town. I'm almost always going through towns to where I have access to a grocery store. And so with the smaller fridge, it's still pretty easy for me to stop, restock on food, and not have to take up so much room with a giant fridge. The other thing you might want to know is power consumption. So the way these fridges work is the compressor doesn't just run all the time. Once it's at temperature, it turns off and then kicks back on once it needs to cool things back down a little bit. And so I've found that when it does kick on, it pulls like 30 to 40 watts-ish, which isn't a ton. But that's not very consistent because it's not consistently pulling that nonstop. That all depends on your temperature outside. So in the middle of summer, that compressor is going to have to be on way more, and you're going to use that 30 to 40 watts more consistently. Whereas right now, like it's late October, my hands are freezing, it's cold out here. The temperature outside is going to help with this thing, so the compressor's not going to have to come on as much. So the last thing I want to do is I'm actually going to put this back up in the corner, strap it down, and I want to show you kind of how I have this set up in case you have a similar use case. So this is where I run my fridge, just right up here in the corner. And if you have any type of side access, then it makes it really easy because you can just open it from right here and you can get in just like that and access all your stuff. I also keep a small little foldable step stool there in case, depending on where you're parked, it might make this area a little bit taller. But for me, it's super easy just to reach in here and reach it. But my wife's a little bit shorter, so sometimes the stool is a little bit helpful for getting into the bottom of the fridge. I still have access to all the controls really easy right there. And then I can just plug it in right to my power station right there. So it's all really neat. I can tuck the wires down in there and nothing gets in the way. And then I just secure it down with a simple ratchet strap right there. So that eliminates the need for any fridge slides or anything that's expensive or complicated. It's just super simple. Strap it down and it's good to go. So here's kind of a good way to show you why I was so sold on the Iceco fridge. So right now I have the camper open up here, and our 2-year-old drinks milk like it's freaking going out of style. So when we are up here camping and we're sleeping up here or hanging out in the camper area, I wanted to be able to have access like this to be able to get in and get his milk. Or if we were in a rainstorm or it was cold or something and we were hanging out in this camper area, which is the whole reason that I wanted this set up, was for the privacy and for the protection, that you have access to your fridge as if you were inside of a camper, so that you can actually get to it right there. And then obviously you saw from the outside, you can open it from right there too. And then the other reason I wanted it clear up here in the front was because this panel right here is rigid. And so when you open it up to have it kind of in camper mode, I wanted this area here to be as free as possible for kind of hanging out or living out of. And I don't get it, but almost everyone in this space mounts a 55-liter fridge right here on a tilting fridge slide, and it literally takes up like half of your truck bed because you have to avoid these, and so your fridge ends up going over the halfway mark right here, and then there's kind of just some dead space behind it. And then what it does is it intrudes on all of your living space right here, where the best place to keep stuff is under that rigid panel up there in these style of campers. So I know that's kind of a hot take on it. You can tell that I am kind of opinionated on it, but I really like having stuff tucked out of the way up there, and it's just as easy to access it from right there as it is from some giant slide right here. And I've got a family, so I wanted as much living space as I possibly could. And it's not very often I'm by myself. Usually my wife's at least with me or my son, and so you've got this whole panel system that comes across here. And so if you have a giant fridge in the way, either on the left or the right side, then it's kind of hard for that person to get out of bed because the fridge like literally takes up this whole area up to here. And so there's no way to really access one side depending on which side you have the fridge on. So for all the features you get, these things are priced pretty good. They're pretty consistently around 500 bucks. I looked just a minute ago when I was down out of the canyon and it was at 450, so a little bit cheaper than normal. And they do sales all the time, so it's not rare that you'll be able to find it around that 450, 500 range, which is super affordable for a fridge that has way more features than some of the big name brand ones that are like 1,200 bucks. So I'm a big advocate of these fridges, and I think Iceco just crushes it. They use like the same compressors as all the big name brand ones too. And so they run good, they've been tried and true, and I'm really loving this smaller 35 liter size. If you have a little bit more space, height-wise, the 45 is also a good option if you're looking for a more compact fridge. So if you want to check this fridge out, I've got links for it below. I've also got a discount code. It's code COLEADS. You get 12% off their fridges. So all that's below if you want to check them out. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Catch you next time.